Welcome back to Sometimes Love Isn't Enough. I am Angie Grant, your host, and this podcast is all about really getting practical tools to help us show up as the parents that we want to be and seeing our kids through a different lens. And today I'm so incredibly excited because I have a special guest with me today who I met through a mutual friend. And I am just so excited to bring Melanie here to share her gifts with you. So, Melanie, welcome.
Hi, I'm so excited to be here.
Uh,
Thank you for having me on today.
Oh, awesome. I'm so excited that you're here too. And I know that you have some gold nuggets that you want to share with the audience, but I'd love for you to share with our listeners, what led you to who you are today, how you're serving today, the life you're living today.
Oh, yes, I'd be happy to share. So, my name is Melanie Caroline. I'm a divine energy healer and a relationship and love mentor. And I started this journey from really going through this death and rebirth in my own life, where I was in a toxic relationship and I was making decisions that were catering to the other person. And literally, it was all killing me inside. And when I went through this death and rebirth, I had to reclaim who I was. And I've been a very spiritually gifted individual since a child, but I kept resisting those things. And I noticed the more I resisted who I was at my core, the louder my higher self was calling me in. And I was like, I can't resist this anymore. So I had to really align myself and reclaim my identity. And the at the second I started owning who I was and dropping, releasing, healing from the toxic relationships is really when I started to understand who I was at my core and love myself abundantly. And it's amazing when you start loving yourself, having compassion for yourself, you start setting these boundaries within your environment, with the people you interact with. And you say, no more am I going to tolerate toxic relationships, people who disrespect me. I'm going to align with my purpose and who I am. I'm going to be a better mother. And so, this entire journey that I have had has led me to this place of helping other women heal their wounds. I extract trauma that has been stuck in the body through Reiki and sound frequency. And I help women reclaim their identity and find their goddess and follow their purpose completely.
Oh my gosh, that was really beautiful. And it, like, I know to the listeners here that your experience that you shared is something that so many of us struggle with, right? And I also, I know you're a projector type in human design, and listening to you describe how you knew from a very young age that you had this calling, that you were meant for something bigger. Well, heck yeah, that is your type as a projector, is you can see things that the rest of us can't see. So, man, thanks for listening to your calling and stepping into who you are. And thanks for sharing that bit of your story with us. As you and I were chatting a couple of weeks ago, preparing for today, and then you had shared your human design with me, to prepare so I could speak on your podcast. um, I was looking back through my notes and how you really wanted to focus on that piece of self-love, that's just at the core of the work that you do, the work you've done on yourself, and how you help other moms. And I don't know if you know this, Melanie, but so there are different parts of our design and they all mean different things. So, like, for example, what's in our moon is what drives us, right? Or what's in our Mercury is how we communicate. Well, the gate of self-love is in your uniqueness.
Yeah.
It's in your Uranus, which is our uniqueness, our unusualness. So it's something about you and how you interpret that bit of self-love in such a unique and bold way. And for you to like share your unique gift out with the world is just so freaking cool. So I love that.
That's amazing. No, I had no idea. Oh my gosh. That is, I don't know, like the more I've stepped into my identity and who I am and listening to my intuition and my spirit family, the more things are like aligning and the universe is responding to me.
Yeah.
And I had no idea that was even a part of my HD chart.
Yeah.
And I'm just like listening to my higher self. So it totally makes sense. It would probably be a part of like my purpose here on Earth.
Yeah. Well, yeah, of course it is, right? It's part of who you're here to be. So, the other really interesting thing that I want to share, and then I won't go too much in human design because I want you to share your gifts. But when you and I were chatting before, one of the things that you were saying is that you're going through a certification, a tantric certification. Is that correct?
Yeah, yeah, I finished it.
So you want to hear something interesting also about your design is so in our sacral is our center for work and life force energy. And so in that sacral, right? So you know the generator types. We were talking about your kids and your hubby are the generator types. So have that consistent energy to do work, which also means consistent energy to make babies, take care of babies, do all the things. And as a projector type, it means that you're more receptive to other people's energy, which isn't a
Mm.
good or bad thing. It doesn't mean you have more or less. It just means that your energy is dependent on other people, which, when we talk about intimacy, other people help, right?
Right.
You only have one gate defined in your sacral center. And so meaning you have one lesson to learn through your relationships, and yours is gate 29. And gate 29 is called the gate of devotion or commitment. And it's also the gate of sensuality, and it's the tantric channel.
Oh, wow.
I know. I was looking back through my notes. So here's what it says. It's the energy associated with commitment. It's more sexually inclined in partnerships where there's some level of commitment. You're not likely to take sex or relationships lightly. One of your lessons in life is learning when to say no, that you might jump into commitments quickly because of that channel, the energy of it. And it's a very sensual channel. It's the tantric channel. Yeah, so I don't know, take that for whatever it is. But as I was looking through your design, I was like, oh, of course she has the tantric channel. That's fascinating.
Oh, wow. That is so wild because I've always said that I love love and I love like commitment and things that are symbolic and special and creating deep connections. And so it just is mind blowing to me that my gate 23 would be a tantric channel.
hmm
Oh,
And
wow.
But it's funny when I was chatting with you before and you said that, and I was like, oh gosh, I could never do that. Like that's so out of the scope of me. And it is. It is out of the scope of me. It isn't in my design. It doesn't mean I couldn't learn those things or it couldn't be part of me. But as a generator type, I have consistent sacral energy where the open sacral types are more open to other people's ideas, more open to other people's energy, and a defined sacral is less open. We have our own energy. I don't need somebody else's. And so, yeah, I remember when we were talking, and of course, part of me was so fascinated, but then I was like, oh, that's not for me. It makes me uncomfortable thinking about it. And
Yeah.
yeah, and for you, I mean, it's part of the way that you give love to yourself and to those that you're serving, right? Is helping them connect with their body. So I wanted to share that with you and I knew you'd be fascinated by it. So
Oh, wow, Angie, thanks for sharing. My mind is blown right now. I'm like, wait, I need to process.
I know. I know. I asked you beforehand. I said, "Do you want to hear this before we start recording or after we start recording?" So I'm
No,
so
this
glad
is
we waited.
great.
Yeah.
This
Yeah.
is
So
great.
I would love to hear now. I'll be done talking for a while, but I would love to hear, when you think about that piece of self-love and connecting with others, you know, yeah, I'd love to hear more from you about how you help clients to connect with themselves, connect with other people.
Yeah, of course. So, through this journey, I've had to learn to connect with myself deeply. And the fact that you're telling me that my gate 23 is like this tantric gate that I connect, that I'm very devoted, it has gotten me into situations that have been not healthy for me. right? Because I have clinged myself previously to toxic men. And it has been extremely difficult for me to release people that are not healthy for me because I used to define my worth and value based on how they treated me. And this is often a cycle for women who are in toxic relationships, is that they don't value themselves. They feel unworthy and they define themselves based on how they're treated. And we think that, for women who are in toxic relationships, if I could change this person or if they could see me, then I'm worthy, then I'm valuable. And I was in that cycle for so long that it nearly shattered me. I went through this entire death, this spiritual death. And it really helped me see that my value, my worthiness is not dependent on what other people think of me. And so I had to go through this journey myself in order to help other women find their value, find their worthiness, find their sovereignty, and become liberated to to understand that their their value has nothing to do with what the other person thinks of them. Because the reality is, people are going to think all kinds of things about you. You're going to be a trigger for them because you're shining bright. They're going to be your best friend because you help them energetically feel good. Like, we are, our, I'm losing my words because my brain is like, tell them this. Um, but we, our personality is, Angie, I'm losing my words.
It's okay. Uh,
Um, we are not defined by what other people think of us. And this is the point that women need to understand, is that we're going to be the other people are going to be triggered by us. People aren't going to like us. People are going to like us. They're going to be our best friend. But what matters most is how we feel inside. It's how we come home to ourselves, how we process our shame, our guilt, because what happens is women start clinging on to the shame, the guilt, the anger, frustrations, perhaps for their past decisions based on their toxic relationships that used to be, or the parenting decisions that they used to make. I made a lot of terrible choices when I was in a toxic relationship. I have worked really hard to heal, to transform and alchemize those emotions so that I could be a better mother.
yeah,
And so when women come to me and they feel this desperation, this great deal of shame and guilt, and their chakras are blocked, or there's trauma stuck in their body, or these stuck emotions. We work together to alchemize those things so that they can see, yes, that was a past choice I've made. Those are past decisions. I went through this trauma and I've become this greater person. I've evolved, I've grown. And because of those decisions that I made, I wouldn't be here today. And that's the part that some women oftentimes forget, is if we didn't go through that, where would we be? Who would we be? What
yeah,
we've learned such great lessons from our life experiences. And there is no need to hold on to the shame and the guilt. And one way to alchemize that is to have self-compassion and to love themselves fully and completely for who they are and who they're evolving into. And we always get the choice to make adjustments. If you notice you're in a situation or with a person that is unhealthy for you, it's not life-giving, you always have a choice. And that is what I tell women that come to me that might be in a marriage that is feeling depleted, or they're in a toxic relationship, or they're in not even a relationship with a partner, but a friendship, coworkers. You have a choice to advocate for yourself and speak out. Your voice matters. And women need to remember that. that there is a choice always. And so the work that I do when I work with women is really helping them reclaim themselves. And sometimes they may have energetic blockages. We have 7 different chakras in our body. We have our root, our sacral, our solar plexus, our heart, our throat, our third eye, and our crown. And each of those chakras means something different in the body. And I intuitively tap into their higher self and their spirit family to help them understand how they can transform and alchemize their situation or the emotions. And I help them extract the trauma and the stuck energy so that they can move forward, so that they can heal. It's all within themselves. It's not outside of ourselves, it's within.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, I love that so much. And I know that um as you're listening to this, I know that so much of what Melanie just shared just rings so true to what we're many of us, all of us are really experiencing, that we hold on to this old energy that isn't ours, right? We had that experience for a reason. And I would say through the lens of human design, it was one of your lessons to learn. It we experience through our openness, but that energy that we experience isn't for us to hold on to. And I love that you use Reiki to help really, like you said, alchemize it out. Because right, we were supposed to feel the energy, experience it, learn from it, and then get it the heck out. But we
Mhm,
don't. We like put it in a suitcase and we drag it along with us everywhere we go. And so I
mhm.
love that perspective about how you look so holistically at us as humans and moms and our experiences, and um how we have to heal first. It isn't about fixing our kids, solving their behavior problems. It's about us first.
Yeah, absolutely. And I feel this energy building that women are leading the next generation. We're literally raising the next generation that is going to shift this realm, shift the dimension, shift how we are as a society and a culture, how we raise generations after us. And if we are not healed as mothers, we, as you said in my podcast episode on the Moms Unboxed, is we are shifting, changing, and helping them grow and adapt through human design, through these different modalities to raise great leaders. And we have to heal ourselves first so that we're not actually raising our children the way our parents raised us. And if we don't shift the trauma and the way we were raised, we those patterns will continue. And so I help women break those patterns and help them see that, when we understand our limiting beliefs, the narratives and the stories that we've told ourselves, what we were raised with, when we understand those things and become aware, that's when we really start transforming. And that's when we really start raising our children differently because we see that wasn't great for us. We were my dad, he used to say, "You're to be seen and not heard." That's literally what I thought. My throat chakra was so closed. That's the reason why I started my podcast. So that I could use my voice, so I can start advocating for myself, so I can start helping my daughter and my sons advocate for themselves. I would never in a million years tell them they're to be seen and not heard because I understood how much damage that caused. But if we normalize those things as parents, that we are repressing our children and we need to move beyond that. And so when you start seeing yourself as whole, as wholesome, compassionate, loving, giving ourselves grace, understanding the limiting beliefs, the patterns that we've carried and the energy, and we release those things. It's like we become this whole other person.
Wow. Oh, I I don't now I'm gonna get teary-eyed because I I think like so many of us have had bad experience. I don't know if there's a human out there that hasn't been given some level of feedback throughout their childhood, their young adulthood that has caused them to shut down a part of themselves, that has caused them to not feel safe or okay to be who they are. And I talk in my coaching program about trauma and that I use a maybe a different definition than what's out in the medical world, but I really look at trauma as any experience that has caused us to not trust that we're lovable or that we're valued for who we are, or an experience that has caused us to not feel safe to be who we are. And when we look back, some people say, "Well, I never experienced trauma," but that's such a beautiful and awful example all at the same time, Melanie, about that those words that we say to our kids that we're, that like, oh dear, my mom just came out of my mouth, right? We must heal ourselves to break those patterns because what the words that we say, the way that we raise our kids, even in the heat of the moment when we have lost our cool because we haven't been taking good enough care of ourselves, when we lose our cool, those words matter. And it's not that we can't repair, it's not that we can't, you know, repair that moment, but but it's up to us. I agree with you. We are the generation that is going to turn these old patterns on their head and make it so they can't continue to move forward through our generation, through our kids' generation, through their kids' generation. It really is up to us to see it differently, to make a decision that we're done with the old and ready to move forward. I love everything that you just shared.
Yeah, and one of the things that I teach is a program. It's called Compassionate Awareness Loving Mom, CALM. And through that program, I help moms regulate their nervous system through meditation, through somatic work, and it's to help them see and understand and give them this space to hear what exactly it is they're saying to their children. Because when we are dysregulated, when we're frustrated, when we're angry, that's when we are reactive. And when we're reactive, we start, sounding like our parents and saying these things that are actually very hurtful and detrimental to our children's well being. So, when we're able to regulate our nervous system, when we're able to slow down, we develop this space. And in that space is our ability to respond. And that's what's really important about being a parent is creating the space to respond in a loving, compassionate way. Even if we're experiencing some frustration or anger, it's like have the ability to self-regulate. But because of our busy world, we're not addressing our own needs, we're not taking care of ourselves, we've become very reactionary. And the brunt of that reaction, our children get. And so through that calm program, it's like we get to really sit in meditation, regulate our nervous system, and understand where we're having those patterns, where we're saying the unhealthy thing. And when we become more of our aware of ourselves, we understand too that, oh, I'm being critical of myself. Because oftentimes the way we're treating others is actually the way we treat ourselves.
Yeah.
And so we get this space to really understand, oh, I'm becoming aware that I have a judgmental mind or I'm being critical. And I see why when my kids spill milk, I get very angry very quickly because I don't have the patience or the grace to allow for mistakes because I don't allow for mistakes for myself.
Yeah. Oh, that's good. Well, and I had a thought, but it's gone now. That was so good. Um, I Oh, I know what I was thinking as you were talking too is that idea of like taking care of ourselves because and and you kind of said this, but when we are reacting to our kids, we're often reacting as if they are what needs to change. And I really hope that listeners take away from today is that, you know, when our kid spills the milk and we're being reactive about it, it's not that their behavior needs to change. It should be a key signal to us to say like, whoa, take a step back. What do I need to do to take care of myself so that I can be in a better space to respond to my kids?
Yeah, absolutely. That goes back to, you know, when we are feeling dysregulated and reactionary, we try so hard to
Mhm.
control other people, control our environment, and really the shift has to occur inwards. It's not our, it's okay that the children spilt the milk.
Yeah,
It's an
yeah,
accident. How can we respond better so that they have more grace and compassion with themselves? It's
yeah,
okay. It's okay that you spilt the milk. It happens. We all make mistakes. You know how much freeing that is, and how much space there is, and much love there is in that, rather than yelling at a child, sending them to their room.
yeah, yeah. Well, I was thinking too as you were talking, we used a silly example of spilling the milk. I know that many listening to this podcast, the behaviors they're dealing with are extreme, sometimes bizarre, unsettling behaviors. I attract parents who are really struggling with challenging behaviors, struggling with kids who are having a hard time attaching because of their own really significant traumatic past. And and I say that out loud because this example of spilling the milk, it holds true no matter what the behavior is. And sometimes when our kids have those attachment type behaviors where the behavior itself, it looks as though it's designed to push us away. I mean, it is from a neurological standpoint. Our kids have created this story about themselves that they're not lovable, they don't belong, they're not valued. And so they keep themselves at bay because it feels unsafe to open themselves up to love. And so the way they do that is really ugly sometimes, doing really horrific things, scary things, hurtful things. That's what the parents that often follow my podcast, I think, are experiencing in their home. And but but exactly what you're saying, Melanie, holds so true. If our kid does something atrocious and we're starting to have our own trauma response based on that. I know myself that when things were so tricky with my son, my body was having a physiological response to his presence, to his behaviors, to his words, to my phone ringing and it showing our local school showing up right. My body was reacting to that. And it's exactly as you're describing. It's that us doing that inner work and reconnecting with ourselves and shedding that trauma out of our energy is the solution, whether we're reacting over spilled milk or our body is physiologically reacting because we're in this trauma loop ourselves.
Yeah, I can resonate with that, especially with my oldest. He, we've had parent teacher meetings, daycare meetings, I mean, since he was 4 years old because of his behavior. And so I literally was in like this fight response. My nervous system was constantly dysregulated. I would get stressed and frustrated. You can hear it in my tone, my body language, like everything about me would just like tense up around my kid. And then the heavy guilt and shame would set in because I didn't want to feel that way towards my child. But he was so combative and everything was an argument or a fight. And as he grew, there was this major shift. He matured and he started becoming understanding and he stopped yelling as much and he would start calming me down. Like he was like, "It's okay, mom," because I would get so like tense, like reactionary. And for a long while there, it was because I felt so, I didn't know what to do. There was a point in time in raising him that I wanted to call CPS on myself because I was like, I don't know what to do. I don't know how to raise him. I'm desperate for help. It was an awful time. And it wasn't his fault. It just I wasn't equipped to understand what his needs were. And I was so young myself. And I was, like I said, in a very toxic relationship. I was dealing with a lot on my own outside of him, and I couldn't balance the two. And so when he reached this maturity level and he showed me over and over, I'm not, he stopped arguing with me when I asked him to clean his room. He, he stopped being so combative about everything. And I was like, okay, now I need to regulate my nervous system. I'm safe here. My son is shifting and changing. I'm growing. I'm changing. As a mother, I'm making more decisions that are better for him. I'm understanding how to communicate better. I'm understanding how to address my own needs. And so when you start addressing your own needs and you learn these different communication styles, and you learn what it really is to have compassion and empathy and grace and patience for yourself. It really exudes onto the way you parent your children.
Yeah.
But it took me so long to get there. I mean, he's 14 now, but
Yeah.
it's a journey. And we really, really have to show ourselves forgiveness when maybe we're not doing it right, because there is no, like my dad always said, there is no rule book to parenting,
There's
right?
not.
So it's okay to make mistakes and adjust. It's okay to recognize, ooh, I didn't respond well there. What could I do better next time? Instead of like guilting ourselves, shaming ourselves, beating ourselves up, getting angry with ourselves, because those unwholesome emotions, they're not helping.
Yeah. And our kids are picking up on it too, right? You know,
Absolutely.
they're feeling awful because we're feeling guilty because their behaviors. My hope, I do actually say now, I have been saying for many, many, many years that kids don't come with instructions. And now I've started to say, but actually their human design tells us so much about what they need in such a way that I didn't know before. So I would argue that maybe now they do come with a little bit of an instruction book, perhaps. Um, yeah, and I we learn from the experiences that we've had and we keep shifting. We don't beat ourselves up because it isn't helping that shift that we're on this planet to make to help break those old patterns. Um, Well, so I do want to wrap this up to, respect the time of the audience. There's been so much gold here. I imagine we'll do this again in the future. Um, but are there any key takeaways that, I do like to leave my audience with some practical things that they can start doing, this week as they're listening. Are there any key takeaways or anything that you want to make sure that you share with the audience that's listening?
Yeah, I thought it would be great to share some compassionate language that parents can use to really help them process their emotions and communicate with their children so that we're not critical, we're not being defensive, we're not stonewalling them. And this compassionate language starts with really observing what is going on. So when I see, when I hear, when I remember. So, for instance, let's say, our child is throwing a huge fit. They're stomping, they're kicking, screaming. Instead of yelling at them or criticizing them or yelling at them, sending them to their room, I can see that you're upset because I'm observing that you're kicking and you're screaming, you're yelling. When we start conversations that way, it's like, oh, I am being watched. I am being seen. And then we address the feelings. I feel that you're angry. I'm feeling that you're angry because as parents we can feel the energy, right? We talk about HD, but there's also energetics, right?
Yeah.
There's the energy that our children are exuding from us. And then is there something you need? Something you want in this moment? How can I help you? You know, I'm noticing that you're kicking and screaming. I can feel that you feel angry or frustrated. What is it you're needing or wanting right in this moment? And then you can put in a request. Would you be willing to give me a hug? Would you be willing to stop screaming and talk to me? So we start with the observation, then we go to the feelings, and then we go to the needs, and then the request. And as parents, we have to be very mindful of it's they're called the four horsemen. It's from the Gottman Institute, and that is that we're being critical, we're being defensive, we're stonewalling, and we're condemning someone, contempting, like blaming. And when we use loving kindness language, we really take away all those hurtful types of reactions that we can have. And so I just wanted to share that with the audience is that when we can use compassionate language, it's amazing how people can open up. And I used to work with teenagers who they were intellectually disabled, and they would have these just very big emotions. And as the head of the behavior response team, it was my responsibility to communicate with them. And I would use this language like, wow, I see you're like stomping down the road and screaming. It feels like as a projector, right? I could feel energy and emotions. So it's like, I feel that you're very frustrated. What is it you're needing? And they would instantly open up to me because I had a different way of communicating to them. I would see them for like what they're doing, how they're feeling. And it's like, what do you need in this moment? How can I help you?
Yeah.
And then, they would give me their request. Do you have something I could do? What's your request? Is it okay that you stop stomping down the road because they would leave the facility and they would leave and I'd be like, no, why don't you come back? Can you walk this way? Can you stop screaming at mommy for a second so I could understand what it is you're needing?
Yeah.
If it was my child.
Mhm.
And so
Yeah.
I've learned to use this with my oldest and my other two. And it's like now there's not a lot of screaming because we're learning to communicate together and tapping into our body and our energy. Like where is where is the anxiousness? Sometimes my daughter can get anxious. Like where is the anxiousness? Can you point to it? And it really has just evolved our ability to process our emotions and communicate. And another beautiful technique that I wanted to share with the audience today is called a breath reset. And what you do, and I encourage parents to practice this in a situation that doesn't have a lot of high emotions. Just like do it because you want to. So what you do is you hug each other and you set chest to chest and you start breathing together, the same rhythm. And when you're first starting this practice, you can say, I want you to breathe with mommy. And you hug each other and you feel each other's breath rise and fall. You can feel it in the chest. And this regulates the nervous system, helps calm the child and yourself. And I do this with my partner all the time. When I'm like feeling like overwhelmed, I'm like, okay, I need a hug. and we'll start breathing together. And it's just a magical way to connect. And it's regulating your breath, your nervous system. You're helping them calm and helping them understand, like, where is it that the emotions are residing in my body? Because when we're reactionary, we can't really feel it, especially when we're kids. We're like, ah, we're just angry. But when we do this practice, when we do this breath reset and we're sitting chest to chest and we're breathing together, inhaling and exhaling, they're following your rhythm and you're helping them regulate. It's such a beautiful practice that I hope that your audience will try.
Oh yeah, thank you so much for sharing that, and thanks for entertaining my request for a couple of practical tips. So
Absolutely.
that was lovely. I know that people are going to want to find you. So where can my audience find you?
So I have a podcast called Moms Unboxed. And in that podcast, I talk about relationships, intimacy, and parenting. And I'm also on Facebook under Melanie Caroline and on Instagram at Meta Springs.
I love it. I love it. And we'll make sure we get a link so it's easy peasy for people to find you. So, oh my goodness, Melanie, thank you so much for hanging out here today at Sometimes Love Isn't Enough. I think this was just so perfectly energetically aligned because I think you get it too, right? Sometimes love isn't enough. Sometimes we have to do that inner work. Sometimes we have to do things that are uncomfortable and that are maybe going against the grain of how we were raised. And that's okay. That's actually what our kids are calling us to do.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And it's okay to heal and shed and evolve. It is part of our process here on earth. And when we do that for ourselves, we just pour out so much love into our children and raising them differently. And that's what we need for the generations to come.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much for guesting here, and I'm sure we will connect again soon. So that's all. Take care.
Thank you.